All right, today we're going to be talking about molecules and enzymes and how they affect the human body. Energy storage in the body. You might be wondering, why did Mr. Moore show us that first picture? Well, the energy we get is from food. All the energy that we get in our body comes from food. And our body performs daily tasks based off this energy. I think it's really interesting, the two ways that our body stores energy, and one of them short-term storage and one of them is long-term storage. Now the short-term storage, long-term storage part, not super important, but you do need to write everything in yellow. Everything that's written on here that's not a picture needs to be written down in your notes today, all right? There are two main types of energies in foods. We got carbohydrates, where we store energy. That's our short-term storage. We're going to store energy in animal cells. Also, humans store these, and it's made from glucose. And if we don't use that short-term energy storage, it ends up changing to fats or lipids. And this is like a longer-term energy storage. So when we see people like on no-carb diets, when they're eating nothing but no carbs, they're eating like meats and different kind of vegetables and things that don't have any carbs in them, they're gonna lose a lot of weight, because what they're doing is they're taking their long-term energy storage, their fats, and turning that into usable energy again, and they're burning fat quickly. So no carb diet is why you see people lose a ton of weight. I had a friend that went from 205 pounds to 189, and you may be thinking, Mr. Moore, that's not very much, but he is my height, and he's a little bit bigger than me, like muscle-wise. So for him to drop that much weight was kind of insane, because he stopped eating carbs. His body fat percent went down to like 8% from like 15. So he lost a ton of fat because of that. Because your body just stores fats and lipids, which are also called lipids, and that's what makes you bigger. Proteins. Proteins are super important, but they don't only do what this picture over here shows. Yes, they help you build muscle, but they're good for you. They're going to help control the rate of reactions within your body. They're going to regulate all your cell processes. They're going to help you fight diseases. They're going to help you build body tissues, like we see in this picture. And they're built from amino acid. They're the amino acids are like the Legos. You don't get a Lego structure without the individual Legos, and that's what amino acids are. One amino acid is like one Lego. So proteins are super good for us, but we got to make sure that we understand that they're not just for building muscle. Proteins actually determine your eye color, your hair texture, your skin color, your skin texture, and a whole bunch of different things, including the shape of your bones, the shape of your eyes and nose and ears and mouth, and all of that. Proteins are super important when it comes to building any organism.
You gave up on life, didn't you?
Thank goodness it's over, right? So the protein class are hormones. They help the body communicate with itself. Like this gentleman, he was obviously sick. So its hormones told him that we need to get rid of whatever's in our stomach that's making us sick. So he started to, throw up a little bit. Antibodies, they help our immune system. So when we are sick, if we can't throw up whatever is making us sick, antibodies are a protein that goes in and they attack whatever is making us sick, whether it's a bacteria or a virus. The enzymes actually help us speed up our bodily reactions. And what occurs in an enzyme is it lowers the amount of energy. So if there's a lot of energy needed and we add an enzyme, it lowers the amount of energy that we need to be able to start the reaction and complete the reaction. Remember, this is how I remember it. Hey, I want some protein. HAE, to remind us of what our 3 protein classes are that we're talking about. Hormones, antibodies, enzymes. Hey, I want some protein.
But what is DNA? When you look in the mirror, you're seeing 75 trillion cells. These cells are you. Inside, virtually all of them is your DNA. In 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick discovered that DNA, short for deoxyribonucleic acid, is contained on a structure called the double helix. 97% of DNA is still a mystery. The remaining 3% is genes.
DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. It's a relatively simple molecule.
Because we like to think, at least, the most complicated, the most important, perhaps, species, that we would have the most complicated, the biggest genome, shall we say. And this is just not true.
Now that we've sequenced this genome, we've counted between about 20 and 25,000 genes. This is minuscule compared to a lot of other animals and even some plants.
As far as we know, the organism that has the largest genome is a single-celled amoeba. Very unimpressive looking little beastie. But it has a genome that's 200 times larger than the genome that there would be in any human, in you and me.
So what scientists are trying to work out now is how this information of life can be so elegantly written that so few genes can interact and work together to make something as complex, both in terms of our body, but also in terms of our brains and our minds.
Genes are the individual instructions that tell your cells what to do. You began as one cell created when your father's sperm fertilized your mother's egg, fusing their DNA to make your DNA. The genes within it instructed the cell to split and multiply. Then the genes inside each new cell told them to join one of 200 specialized cell teams, which would work together to construct you. Every day your genes keep you alive, instructing your heart cells to pump, your nerve cells to feel pain, and your skin cells to hang together to create the waterproof layer that surrounds you.
So deoxyribonucleic acid, that's an important molecule that we'll be talking about. It has its whole own unit. It gets its own couple days that we get to talk about DNA. And it's that important. So don't forget it. Don't write it down and just be like, oh, it's never going to be talked about again. It will be talked about plenty of times. These are nucleotides that provide the building blocks for the structural components of an organism. These are like blueprints. If you've ever seen blueprints for a building, you can't build the building without having a general idea of how the building is going to be built. And actually, when I say general, I mean specific idea. Grandview High School was not built just because some guy decided to start putting things together. They made a plan, they made a blueprint, and then they went off the blueprint to create this building. That's the same thing that occurs in your body, but deoxyribonucleic acid is your blueprint. So that is where our nucleotides come in, our DNA comes in, and they actually are telling the rest of your cells, the rest of your body, basically, because your body's comprised of cells, what to do when it comes to building an organism.
Scientists in Georgia think they might have found out how all life started on Earth. Yeah, we're about to get real. Strap in. Anthony here for D News, and if there's one question we all want the answer to, it's where did we come from? And now researchers at the Georgia Institute of Technology think that they have figured out a crucial component of the answer. So, about 3.5 billion years ago, the Earth is a lifeless, oxygen-free environment, and then at some point, bacteria form and start converting all the carbon dioxide, methane, and ammonia, and turning it into oxygen. But we've never been sure where that bacteria came from. Earth's oceans at the time were filled with all kinds of minerals, including a lot of iron. If you've heard the term primordial soup, that's what we're talking about. Earth's original atmosphere and mineral-filled oceans. So the idea is that in the soup are all the things that you need to make RNA. And then the RNA interacted with something, some sort of chemical reaction or spark, and started creating all of that bacteria and all life on Earth. Now, there have always been a couple problems with this theory. First of all, RNA isn't really capable of making life on its own. Your DNA has all the instructions for making you and the ability to transfer that information. RNA basically acts as a messenger. It takes the instructions from your DNA and it uses them to make proteins. Without DNA and protein-based enzymes, RNA doesn't survive. So the second thing is that there was nothing in the environment that anyone could find that would jumpstart the ability to create life. I mean, there are theories that lightning did it. Another theory is that there was an impact from space, but that's mathematically silly. So here's what the team in Georgia found. If they recreated the primordial soup in a chamber, RNA actually changed. It started behaving differently in an environment without oxygen. It was almost like it reactivated a function that it hadn't used in billions of years. It shape-shifted and all of a sudden became an instruction carrier, kind of like DNA. And when they teamed it up with that iron from the soup, it performed a single electron transfer. That means it jump-started the reactions needed for photosynthesis and respiration. RNA, together with iron, created the basis for an eating, breathing thing. Boom, life on Earth. Bacteria forms, oxygen into the atmosphere. 3.5 billion years later, we're all reblogging sloth gifs on Tumblr. Now, there are a few holes in this theory. If you asked, hey, where did that RNA come from in the beginning of the world? You are asking the right question. See, all the components of RNA were in the soup, but they're not components that like to bond easily, though there have been some successes in making it happen in a lab. But how crazy is that, right? RNA, this molecule that we thought was so simple, we thought we knew everything about, way more adaptive than we thought. So maybe there's a way to create it that we haven't thought of, and then we'll be even closer to figuring out where we came from. The origin of all life. That is pretty rad. What is the biggest question you want science to answer? Let me know down below, and subscribe for more D News.
So it stands for ribonucleic acid. It's made up of organic molecules called nucleotides. Huh, that's weird, Mr. Moore. We just read about that. DNA and RNA are so similar. There's one difference in the way that they're built, and we'll talk about that because guess what? RNA gets its own unit as well. DNA and RNA both are going to be extremely important parts of biology, so we cannot forget them. If we forget these two pieces of biology, then we're going to be forgetting and not being able to do a lot of important things that we need to be able to do as biologists. So be on the lookout for these two things for the rest of the year. This is also what we call a messenger. It's going to carry our message from the DNA to the proteins to be able to make more proteins that actually create our body. So if your DNA says brown hair color, the RNA takes that message, takes it to the proteins, which then create more proteins that create the color brown in your hair color, like Mr. Moore.
Hey, remember when you got a cut, Mama puts hydrogen peroxide in the cut? That's because hydrogen peroxide is water and oxygen. It's H2O2. So when it reacts with that blood, you see a little bubbling. That's oxygen.
Effervesces, kind of.
So I can make that happen with a catalyst. So I have some of the hydrogen peroxide here. I have a catalyst called potassium iodide. That's what this is. So when I mix the two together, you're going to see a little reaction take place, I think. Ready? So this one goes in. See if you see a little reaction that takes place. So you see
there it goes.
So you
yes.
see this a little bit there?
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Do you like that?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's good.
It looks like acid.
I know. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
It's
it's smoking.
okay. Yikes!
Oh.
I didn't know that would take off that much.
Is that going through the table? We
no,
don't
it'll
know.
be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. So here's what I was thinking was if we can calm it down maybe a little bit. So come over here and take. You don't need that script.
No,
So here's
okay.
what you need. Here is the
What's
hydrogen
wrong, Steve?
peroxide, and then I'm going to put in some soap. So here's a little squirt of soap. Okay?
Okay.
So now I need you to help me with this. Come here. There's no backing up. All right. So you see, there's a hole in the bottom. So you're gonna
Oh,
hold
all
this right above the. Well, here, I'll do the first one. Then you help me with the big one.
Okay.
If we get that far.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pour this in. Now that hydrogen peroxide is gonna decompose with oxygen bubbles, and let's see what we get. Okay, you ready?
All
So
right.
this kind of goes in here like this. We cover it up. See what we get. Watch this. Ready?
Oh!
Isn't that just fantastic?
That is
This is just an
phenomenal.
oozing pumpkin. Why wouldn't you want an oozing pumpkin?
Will it melt? It doesn't melt.
I don't know. Haven't really gotten that far yet, but thanks for
Wanna
coming to
count your
rehearsal.
fingers
Yeah,
there?
no, I think we're good.
Oh, now
So
we're
again,
gonna
isn't
do it.
this
Oh,
great?
that's
So
great.
this is oxygen that's here. So we have a little atomic glow that goes in this one here.
Atomic glow.
And we've got the big
Oh,
pumpkin,
even
all right?
better.
So I'm going to move this off to the side and kind
Okay.
of just hope that this works, all right?
All right.
So I'm going to pour it in. The tricky thing is you got to get it covered pretty fast,
Oh,
all right?
all
All right, so this is it, and we're just going to see if we get a little reaction.
Okay.
Ready? 3, 2,
All right.
1. There it is.
And-
And here we go. Let's see if you get any reaction here at all. There should be.
Ah!
That is just beautiful.
That
Isn't
is
that nice?
phenomenal.
We didn't even take out one of the cameras. When's the
Enzymes are going to speed up rate of reaction. When you hear the word catalyst, enzymes are catalysts. But here's the deal. Not all catalysts are enzymes. Some catalysts are just chemicals, but most enzymes, or all enzymes are catalysts, and all of them are actually proteins. They're not chemicals that we create in a lab. They're enzymes that are proteins that are made by our body. And they help us digest food, which is what Mr. Moore's been doing the whole time we've been doing this notes. I've been eating donuts, so don't be jealous. Don't be jealous at all. But that's what enzymes do. They lower an activation energy, and they give us the ability to do reactions, chemical reactions that would take a ton of energy, but when we add these enzymes into it, it doesn't take nearly as much energy, and we're able to do reactions that we wouldn't be able to do if the enzymes were not in our body. So make sure you get these notes. You're going to bring them out to me. If you're to this point and you've written them all down, you're going to bring them to me. I'm going to put them in the grade book for 25 points. And then after you're done with this, you're going to ask Mr. Moore what we're going to do next. And depending on what time's left, we will have an assignment. And that assignment will be posted to Edmodo about 10 minutes ago. So make sure you're getting that turned in. Make sure you're finishing up your notes. If you didn't write down all your notes, I would go back and write down all my notes so that way I got all my points. Easiest 25 points you'll get all year.